Troops suspended pending investigations into Kirk related posts. What's going on here? More fallout from the murder of Charlie Kirk. At least 12 U.S. service members have been suspended or relieved of their duties in connection to social media activity concerning Charlie Kirk. Tell you more what's going on with this one. So, some of the comments are more serious. Some social media accounts appearing to belong to service members have been identified online by other accounts for comments, including racist, should get shot, and reposts saying, make Nazis dead again, according to a review of X post by Military Times. However, other service members that have been targeted online, their posts are not of the same nature. Other service members have been targeted online for calling Kirk or his comments racist and sexist, while also explicitly stating that they do not condone his killing. Not clear whether any of these service members are under investigation. An Army spokeswoman told Military Times on Wednesday the number is approximately a dozen soldiers who've been suspended pending review of their social media account activity. These numbers are subject to change as commands review social media activity and take appropriate action. The Marine Corps confirmed to Military Times this week that the service branch has relieved a Marine from recruiting duties after a social media post that does not align with our core values. I'm getting irked a little bit here. The matter is currently under investigation. The Air Force said it was in the process of taking necessary administrative and disciplinary actions to hold service members accountable for inappropriate actions, but declined to say how many airmen were currently under investigation. Similarly, the Navy said it was actively reviewing reports of social media activity that is misaligned with the department's current social media guidance. Prosecutors have previously tried to discipline service members for social media posts under Article 134 of the UCMJ, known as the General Article, which criminalizes conduct that is prejudicial to good order and serves as a catch-all for a variety of offenses. However, UCMJ violations for social media posts under Article 134 could prove challenging in a court martial. Major Guillermo Muniz, assigned to the 22nd Mobile Public Affairs Detachment at Fort Bragg, is among the suspended soldiers, the Army official said. Facebook profile that allegedly belongs to Muniz publicly shared a post, since deleted, that appears to be in response to remarks Kirk made before his death. Post doesn't name Kirk, but appears above a photo of him. Ladies and gentlemen, Constitution exists to protect you from government persecution. It does not protect you from being held accountable for your actions by other people, the post states. If you choose to make a living by actively talking crap and pissing people off, you should expect for someone to want to hurt you someday. Now, the post concludes with FAFO, a slang acronym for F around and find out, meaning people will face the consequences of their actions. USA Today reported September 12th that a Marine was relieved of his recruiting duties over a social media post calling Kirk a, quote, racist man who was, quote, popped. Now, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has just summoned hundreds of generals to a rare, urgent meeting. He's offered no explanation for the surprise move, reportedly fueling speculation among top generals and their staff who are unaware of the purpose of the summit at a Virginia Marine Corps base. In a statement today, Sean Parnell, the Pentagon spokesman, confirmed to Daily Mail that the secretary will be addressing his senior military leaders early next week. Roughly 800 generals and admirals are stationed across the U.S. and around the world, spanning numerous countries, time zones. Two sources familiar with the situation confirmed to Daily Mail that top-ranking officers from active conflict zones, key regions such as the Middle East, Europe, Asia, are expected to be at Hegseth's upcoming meeting. Former Pentagon source tells the Daily Mail they can't remember the last time this has been done before. We can tackle that, but I want to first get to the social media posts because, look, if your employer, and in this case, one of the armed forces, says this is the conduct that we demand, right? If you're in another jurisdiction, if you're not in the military working for a private employer, I guess they can have rules too, but they can't butt up against, free speech, the way you wear your hair. Military can force you to have a buzz cut, women and, some tight cool bun. But I guess the part that started to irk me was the quote about, you know, keeping with our ideals or something to that. I'm trying to find it again. Said, look, can't say certain things. Does Charlie Kirk meet their ideals? What we're acting on behalf of the American people, right? You're there to protect the American people, and there's got to be a certain status that must be maintained. And I don't know. Look, some of these things, calling for death and this and that, but the rest of it woes. Someone called Charlie Kirk a racist. And I don't think that you can argue that too much of his speech was racist and sexist. I mean, that's just a fact. You can argue that he had a right to say it. I mean, he did in America. But to just say this is what you interpret it to be, and it fits the definition. I mean, how do we get off this slippery slope?
So here's my thing for people on our side who vehemently, if anything, man, I would say we actually have the diametrical opposite politics of Charlie Kirk. We don't share his views, right? I want to say, me personally, it's not even like, oh, he had a right to say. It's like, to me, I don't think a guy should get shot in the head or shot in the neck in his case because of the things they've said on podcasts. That's just my personal view, right? And I would think that most people hold that view. Like, to just get
Absolutely.
killed on the street like a dog because you were bad, you had bad politics on podcasts, racist politics. I think that's wrong and should be condemned. I think this is where it gets slippery, like you said, Sharon. If, when you're talking about this in a public space, if you're veering in the context of he had it coming, which is to say that basically he deserved to die, right? Depending on what you do for a living, I think it does matter. Honestly, if you're saying that kind of thing in public, if you're, let's just say you're a nurse and you might have to administer care to a Klansman,
Absolutely.
like, I don't know that you could be in that job if you think all right wingers deserve to die. Like, that's just a
But isn't there
fact.
some nuance? And
You
here's
know,
what I mean by that. Number one, I hate whataboutism, but it's appropriate in this case. Do
yeah.
you think Hegseth and his cohorts are cracking down on speech about George Floyd, who, by the way, Charlie Kirk said was a bum and a druggie, and he didn't die by knee to the neck. He died because he was a bum and he was on drugs and just nonsense and lies. I don't know that people are saying, so many decent people are saying that if you say these things, you deserve to die. That's the nuance. What I'm hearing is, geez, we're living in a world of violent speech. Is it any wonder this kind of thing is happening or that people have reached their limit? Doesn't make it right. In fact, it's a sick public execution. What the hell are we doing? But is lamenting about hate speech, racist speech, sexist speech, transphobic speech, is lamenting about actual speech and the harm it's caused certain communities, and that not everybody has the capacity. And I'm not excusing some shooter, although there's some psychological issues, perhaps. At what are we allowed to just talk about that nuance that, hey, this stuff is getting ugly.
Yeah,
And
I think,
sometimes it creates a violent atmosphere. I didn't. There's nowhere in there where I said Charlie Kirk should be his head blown off. public
Yeah.
is sicko behavior. But isn't speech? I mean, this is the slippery slope. Same thing
It's
was said about
tough.
George Floyd.
Here's the thing that I think is happening that is making things very difficult. I think there's something to if somebody just got killed on the street, I
Like
don't
George
think in
Floyd.
yes, same thing. I don't think in the next breath it's appropriate to be talking about their shortcomings as a person.
We
I
agree.
don't think so. However, we got an administration and a government that is like they're valorizing this guy in real
That
time.
part.
They're
Yes.
turning him into basically the right's MLK or Malcolm X, literally in real time. When we know that Martin Luther King in real time was a reviled American, right? It took years, if not decades for his valorization. Whereas for Charlie Kirk, it's happening in real time. And I think what Sharon is responding to is like people be like, hold on a second. You know, like this, we know, I get it. He just died. But like, can we talk about some of the things that he said? And I think that's where,
Isn't that what we do when people are suddenly taken from us? We
yeah,
evaluate the whole life. In
sure.
this case, there seems to be a debate or just a hard stop that you're not even allowed to talk about what Charlie Kirk said seconds, moments before he was publicly murdered. Can't
Yeah.
two things be true? Charlie Kirk should be here with his grieving wife and his beautiful children. And Charlie Kirk in America had a right to say what he believed, what he wanted to believe, what he wanted you to believe. He had a right. And isn't it okay to also say, well, it was ugly and it was violent and it made certain people targets, not all of his speech. And guess what? Charlie Kirk loved free speech. So knock it off. I'm just saying that the current climate seems to dictate what is hate speech, what is crossing a
Well,
line, and what
of
doesn't.
course.
And that's the slippery slope to me.
Of course. I mean, like these right wingers are obviously in a quite cynical and to me gross and disgusting. This guy's body is still warm, and they're already using it as a political football to
Yep. They're
basically
using him.
they're using him to basically attack their perceived enemies. I think that's completely gross what they're doing. I think it's out of line, and I think it's not. There's nothing wrong with pointing it out. Again, if I'm just taking the side of not the right wingers, but just the concept of a common decency, I think people can say quite justifiably, and you could disagree that, and reason that people can disagree on this, that putting the killing and the speech in this, it feels like it's being put in the same sentence and on the same plateau,
And
right?
isn't
Where
that what free
one
speech is? And I know we're in a gray
goes with
territory
the
here
other
because the
hand in hand.
military and rules but I just want to know what the rules are. Do we have free speech or not? Or we
Facts,
have to wait 10 minutes or we have to wait
facts.
30 days before we can speak truth? That's not then we don't have free speech. Okay. When George Floyd died with a knee on the neck and it was a public, and many would call it a public execution, guess what? There were people saying God awful things. Some of them faced the consequences and lost their jobs. Got it. Got it. Okay. But who decides what can be said and when? This was his whole life's work. The things that he said represented this young man's life work. And if you agree with it, you agree with it. And if you didn't, you didn't. But when are we supposed to talk about the life's work that he loved, that he said some people should die. Some people should die, and I believe publicly by bullets, so that we may continue to have the right to have guns. Hey, am I wrong? Did he say it or didn't he? Am I allowed to? Charlie Kirk should be here. Is it okay for us to talk about what Charlie Kirk stood for or not?
I mean, but another part of this, Sharon, is that the right has foreclosed on a discussion on guns
We can
generally.
reinstate it. Is it
You
our
know,
country or theirs? I demand a reinstatement.
like there's like, oh, we can't even, because we're not talking about the violent, like the outlier nature of American violence because of the insane proliferation of guns, and that conversation is just off the table. This is what
Is it off the
happens.
table or is it only off the table for people who believe there's too many guns? Because as Charlie Kirk was about to be murdered, a horrific public execution. Does
What
anybody
no,
recall what
what
he was
what I mean
talking
by
about?
that, Sharon, is like, when some maniac kid does something and we learn that the kid was addicted to porn and was addicted to violent video games and blah 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 blah. Right wingers would be like, we need to tamp down on that. They'll always talk about some of the what can be argued or whatever as contributing factors, but never ever are we allowed to be like, yo, what's up with the gun culture in our country and the problems that breeds, because they want to avoid that conversation. It's like, let's shift it.
You're
Let's
right.
let's go to
And
the
we're
speech police. Let's go to something
you're
else.
right. And we're not allowed to talk about the black part either. Now, that's it. Okay. When a white kid goes into a church and is welcome there and blows away black parishioners who forgive and say, you know what? Despite the more singing and flower bringing, we're not allowed to talk about the root cause of that violence. Who indoctrinated this kid to believe he had to kill these black churchgoers in South Carolina? Are we allowed to talk about it or not? Is there free speech or not? That's all I'm asking. And I know we're over, but I need to give you the last word, my friend.
I'm pretty sure because the military is kind of the last
It's true.
kind of like male driven in terms of culture places in mainstream society that's like they kind of like hang their hats on the testosterone driven culture within the institution. I bet you they'll be like, yo, this guy should be able to say what he wants because of that unique culture within there. I bet you
Yeah.
that ends up being the case. However, I think in a different
Yeah.
atmosphere, in a different institution, these folks would be getting railroaded for saying how they felt about Charlie Kirk.
They are. There's a woman who doesn't have her job at the Washington Post. There's another who's lost out at a university, and there's on and on. As Laura Loomer says, she's going to find them and report them. I'm just asking what the rules are, America, and that's rhetorical because we ain't never going to know, not in this climate.